Hey planners, my name is Taylor. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to repot one of your plants and when to repot one of your plants. Plant day! For today's activity, you're going to need the plant that you're going to want to repot. Mine is a very sad peace lily because I haven't watered her and her soil's very dry and she's very dramatic. So then you want the pot that you're going to be replanting the plant into. The rule of thumb is that you normally want to make your pot 1 inch to 2 inches bigger than the pot that your plant is already in. For example, this looks like it's in a 4-inch pot, so this should be anywhere from a 5 to a 6-inch pot. It's important not to get too big of a pot because then your plant is prone to get root rot and you may just overwater, the soil may not drain all the way, and that's just not good for your plant. So then you're gonna want some new soil. It's important to get new soil so that way your plant can grab the nutrients from the new soil and use it to thrive, to get bigger, to get better, healthier, all the above. And of course, then you're gonna need some water for the finishing touches. Here I have an empty pot right in front of me. I'm just going to use this pot to catch any of the excess dirt that comes off of this plant when I'm separating the roots. First thing you wanna do is grab your pot. My plant is not stuck to its nursery pot at all, but like I said, she's extremely dry and extremely upset. I personally like to repot my plants when they're on the drier side. It's just easier for me to knock out all the old soil and get it into the new soil, but some people like to do it when it's moist. Some people hate that word, eek. Some people like to repot their plants when their soil's wet, but it's really personal preference, do what you want. So how to know when your plant is ready to be repotted or when it's time to put it in a bigger pot. One of the biggest indicators is root bound. You know your plant is root bound when you take it out of your nursery pot and it's basically the shape of the pot that it's in. Another way to tell if your plant is kind of more stuck in its nursery pot is to see if you can see the roots at the bottom. Sometimes the roots will even grow out of the bottom, and that's when you know it's time to repot. So I normally repot my plants during the spring or the summer. I usually don't like to repot my plants during the winter or the fall season, simply because where I'm at in California, the sun goes down earlier in those months. Spring and summer are usually growing seasons for plants because they get more sunlight. It's easier for them to bounce back from any shock or stress that they might be under, such as going to a new home, a new pot. So that's why I usually do it in the spring or summer. If you do it in the fall or winter, it's probably okay, but they may not bounce back as fast or may not put off as much new growth as you'd like them to. Before I put this in the new pot, I want to separate this ball of roots that have been created from its old nursery pot. It's important to pull the roots apart so that way they have a new direction to go and they're not just getting caught up in the same root ball that they're already in. They can expand and grow into their new pot. Once you start separating the roots, you're gonna find that some roots will separate super easily while others may just be really tangled, really in a big ball. Just be gentle with it. Tap out any soil that you're trying to get away from the roots. If you break roots, repeat after me. It's okay. Plants are a lot stronger than you think and they're gonna wanna survive. If you break some of their roots, they'll bounce back. They're strong girls. I normally just grab my thumbs and just make circular motions and just loosen up the soil in between the roots, and then I just kind of tap out any of the excess. This can take a long time depending on how strong the roots are, depending on how just tight the root ball can be, but just take your time, make circular motions, tap it, and as you can see, we'll begin to get air between the roots, and that's what you want to see. Okay, so like here it's a lot tougher, so I'm gonna just be a lot more aggressive and just kind of just separate the roots from the soil. It's just dry soil. You can tell that this plant needs more nutritious soil. There's basically nothing left in the soil. So I'm gonna do my best to get rid of all this old soil so she can get in some new soil with lots of perlite, lots of nutrition. So as you can see, now my root ball is basically gone. It's no longer in that circled, coiled look anymore, and my roots are all facing down, which means once they're in the new pot, they'll be able to venture out, go whichever way they want to. So it's pretty good now. If you wanted to, you could stop here. A lot of the times, people only use half of the dirt that their plant is already in and then half of new soil, so that way their plant doesn't experience a lot of shock. However, like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't look to me like this soil has any more nutrition left in it. It doesn't really look like it has any fertilizer balls or perlite or anything. So I'm going to want to get this plant in more nutritious soil. So I'm going to try to take a little bit more soil off. Like I said, it's still late spring, early summer, so I really think that my plants she'll do fine if I change most of her soil. Peace lilies are pretty tough cookies. They're really dramatic. They will tell you what they want, and if something's not right, they'll let you know that it's not right until you fix it. So they tell you what they want, and you just gotta listen. So here is a good stopping point that I'm going to reach. As you can see in this bucket, there really is not many broken off roots. Most of the root ball is still here, healthy. She has the big, nice plump ones ready to go. So that's what you want to look for. As long as she has the main roots there, the little roots, this is a good root system. I know she's going to do fine. Okay, now the fun part, your new pot. It's really important that your new pot has drainage. Really, rule of thumb, just don't be planting any plants in a pot that doesn't have drainage. It's okay, you can just be a little bit, more scarce with how often you water, but most plants like to have drainage. Why? So that way they don't sit in wet soil and their feet are always wet. Also, if water cannot drain out of the pot, bacteria and just mold and gross things are more prone to grow in your soil, which then could also affect the pH of the soil, which then could affect your plant, and it's just not a happy story. So, drainage is key way to go. This pot has 2 little drainage holes and then a little tray to catch the water, so I like this girl. First thing I'm going to do is get the new soil that we have. This is just a regular potting mixing soil. You can buy this anywhere from any of your local groceries. So first thing you want to do is add about 1/3 soil to the current pot that you're going to be planting it in. So it's a little bit less than half. This just allows a good base for soil to be underneath your plant and has room for your new roots to grow. So then some pots have a front and some pots have a back. As you can see, this is the front while this is the back, and I don't want to see that. So I want to find the front of my plant. Yes, most plants have a front, it's just their better sides. Like us, we have better sides and they also have better sides. So here's the front of my plant, so I want it to match the front of my pot. So I'm just gonna stick her in there the way I want her to be seen. Make sure all her roots are nice and tucked in. She's nice and cozy. Okay, if you have a friend to help you, that's even better because sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, but if you're by yourself and you just have your plants, you can make this happen. So I just grabbed the old nursery pot, or really anything. I sometimes use measuring cups, that works too. Just grab some new soil. This soil is completely dry. It kind of helps when it comes to just packing in the plant, but if you have moist soil, that works too. But I just kind of hold my plant in place where I want it while I'm putting soil all around her roots, just kind of tucking her in there, making her feel nice, safe, and secure. I always kind of just add a little bit of pressure just around my plant, just kind of tuck her in there, squeeze her in there. Don't push too hard, don't want to break any of her roots, but really just make her feel good, comfortable in her new home. And then also tucking it allows the soil to get in between the roots where you just knocked all that soil out. So I like to do this until my pot is basically full. I just like to leave a little bit of room from where the soil lays compared to where the pot ends. All right, now she's a little bit happier. She's nice and tucked in. So next thing I'm going to do is water my plant. Adding water just kind of settles all the dirt into place, kind of fills all those empty spaces where it might just be air pockets of just roots and not enough soil. So I have my little watering can. I'm just gonna basically drench her, make her soil all soaked, so that way all that water can really get in there. I don't know if this camera's picking it up, but you can see the soil immediately just went down a notch. That's probably because it's getting heavier and it's getting into those tight places that it might have missed before. So last, I'm just gonna push down just a little bit more, and doing that, I have way less soil in this pot than I wanted. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more of my dry soil and just kind of get the desired amount of soil I want in here. As long as your plant can stand up on its own, she has enough soil, but me adding more soil right now is more for aesthetics than anything, so. And then again, I'm just gonna top off with some water. And there you have it. This is my new peace lily in her new pot. She's gonna be a lot happier. Tomorrow morning, she's gonna be thriving. She'll be standing up nice and tall, good, proud posture. It's really that simple. Just make sure that you have a plant that's ready to be repotted, meaning she's root bound, her roots are just getting tied in a knot, and it's time for her to graduate to a bigger pot. Bigger pots should be anywhere between 1 to 2 inches big. Again, if you're going from a 6-inch pot, only go up to an 8-inch pot. Do not go more than an 8-inch pot because your plant will be prone to root rot and bacteria, stuff like that that you just don't need in your plants. Make sure that you break up the root ball before repotting it into a new pot. Add new soil so that way your plant can come in contact with more nutrients, and just add a little bit of water to set her in place. When you're watering your plant, do not add any fertilizer to this new repotted plant for at least a couple weeks. She already is going to be going into a little bit of shock from just getting her roots a little bit touched, getting into a new place with new soil. So just give her regular water for a couple weeks before you think about fertilizing her, just so your plant doesn't have shock. But this is your new pot. She's nice and pretty. She's happy to be in there. If you happen to repot any of your plants, I'd love to see it. Go ahead and tag me on Instagram, or you can email me. My email is going to be linked in the description, or you can always find me on my website, plantsandpilates.com. My Instagram, I'll just put somewhere on the screen. Go ahead and give me a follow. Speaking of Plants and Pilates, I am adding all of these succulents to my website this week. If you don't know what succulent you want, or you don't know where to start, I'm going to be creating a random succulent spot on my website where you can purchase a succulent for half the price, but you'll get a random one, and it could be anyone's between these, or I have a few other ones. So if you were interested in that and you want to get a random succulent, it's kind of fun. Yeah, go ahead and just check out Plants and Pilates. Head over there. I have a bunch of plants for sale, so let me know. And don't forget, planters, keep growing, continue strengthening, and always evolving. I'll see you next time. Bye.